An old pickup rolled to a stop on the ridge, headlights off. The engine ticked in the cold pre-dawn silence. Through the open window, Brad rested the rifle barrel on the doorframe. The scope found the lead Bison.
Slow breath, just like mule deer. No mercy.
The shot punched through the frost. 6 more followed. Bison crumpled mid-stride, dust kicking up around them.
That's it, Brad. Don't let them get away.
Her fingers flew across the screen. The HOA group chat received a text. We got 'em. The beasts are down. When the rifle fell silent, 14 bison lay scattered across the golden prairie, steam rising from their massive bodies. A lone rider emerged from the tree line. The rancher reined his horse to a halt and looked at the slaughter without a word.
They have no idea. This paper will bury every last one of them.
Something's wrong. Why isn't he yelling?
13 months earlier, Joseph Hayes had stood in a small NPS field office, signing a document that would change everything.
We're entrusting you with something irreplaceable, Mr. Hayes.
The agreement placed 80 bison on his land, a vital restoration effort for Yellowstone National Park.
They'll roam here like the old days. Grandpa would have approved.
These animals are menaces. They'll gore a child on the swing set.
She waved a homemade sign that read, "Dangerous Cows," in red marker, then thrust it toward the HOA board.
I don't care what some rancher says. I won't sleep until they're gone.
A certified letter arrived at Joseph's kitchen table 3 days later. It demanded removal of all unauthorized livestock within 14 days, citing HOA regulations.
She has no idea what she's threatening out there. Not a single clue.
For months, Deborah Vance worked the neighborhood like a politician, collecting signatures and stoking fear.
Sign this petition. Those monsters will trample your garden and then come for your kids.
A second letter arrived, handwritten, no return address. The message was simple: get rid of the beasts or we will.
Another empty threat. They have no clue what they're stirring up out here.
At the next HOA meeting, Deborah held a stack of signed petitions high, her cheeks flushed with triumph.
200 families demand action. If the board won't act, I'll find another way.
A neighbor called Joseph, voice tight with worry, asking if the bison were really dangerous.
Those bison are government property. You tell Deborah Vance if she wants a fight. She's got one.
In the grocery store parking lot, Deborah slammed her trunk and turned to a friend.
I am done waiting. If no one else will clean up this mess, I'll take care of it personally.
2 weeks later, Deborah's brother Brad stepped off a Greyhound, duffel bag slung over his shoulder. She met him at the station with a grim hug.
Those beasts are right across the fence, Brad. Every night I lie awake worrying they'll charge through.
They're just animals doing what animals do. Why does she make them into monsters?
You always did protect me, ever since we were kids. I need you now more than ever.
Brad drove his pickup to the ridge at dusk, let the scope settle on the herd, and lowered the rifle without firing.
This isn't hunting. This isn't right. But she's my sister.
You are the only one who can end this nightmare. The HOA is useless. The cops won't help. It has to be you.
That night, Brad cleaned the rifle action, loaded the magazine, and set it by the door.
Tuesday morning before sunrise. I'll film it for the HOA. They'll see we mean business.
No mercy. That's what she needs.
The shots cracked across the valley before dawn broke full. Joseph stood on his porch, coffee in hand, and listened.
That's not hunting. That's execution.
He saddled his mare in the gray light and pushed to the ridge. From the crest, he saw them, 14 bodies, scattered across the golden grass. Steam rising from their hides, already still. He dismounted, knelt beside the lead cow, and turned her massive head. The NPS ear tag glinted under fresh blood.
Gone. All that bloodline work undone by an idiot with a rifle.
He pulled out his phone and dialed the emergency number on the NPS restoration agreement, the one he'd prayed he would never need.
This is Joseph Hayes. I have a mass kill of federal bison. I need law enforcement and a veterinarian here now.
On the other end, the dispatcher froze. Then came a single, tight-lipped answer. Joseph hung up and unfolded the original restoration agreement. He stood among the dead, waiting for the weight of the law to descend. 3 NPS SUVs tore down the dirt road. light bars strobing. Rangers hit the ground before the dust settled.
How many?
Joseph's answer came low and flat. 14. All with ear tags. Collins stood, pulling a worn statute book from his vest. He matched the ear tag against the federal agreement. Then he turned the document for the woman to see.
These are federal restoration bison under the Endangered Species Act. You've just filmed a Lacey Act violation.
Deborah's phone dipped. She stared at the slaughtered herd, her face draining.
Federal? That can't be right. They said it was just a nuisance herd. I've ruined everything.
Collins leveled his gaze at Deborah. The morning fell silent.
Put the phone down, ma'am. You are now a person of interest in a federal investigation.
Collins keyed his radio. Within minutes, a black sedan with government plates pulled in behind the Ranger vehicles. Brad, still gripping his rifle near the truck, saw the sedan and froze. His face went slack.
This is bad. She said it was just a few cows. She never said federal.
The rear door opened, and U.S. Marshal Davis stepped out adjusting his cuff. He was a man who had walked the same walk 1,000 times.
Drop the rifle and place your hands on the hood. Now.
Brad complied like a man in a trance. The cuffs clicked shut, and the rifle was kicked away into the grass. Davis turned his skull-cracked stare on Deborah. His voice didn't need to rise.
Deborah Vance, you are being charged with conspiracy and inducement to destroy federal property. You have the right to remain silent.
This is ridiculous. I was just filming. I didn't shoot anything.
Joseph stood 20 yards away, the federal agreement still open in his hands, watching without a word. Collins walked to Joseph, took the signed agreement, and faced Deborah with the full weight of the Park Service behind him.
You didn't just shoot livestock. You destroyed genetic restoration stock destined for Yellowstone.
He held the agreement open, pointing to the bold NPS restoration seal and Joseph's signature beneath it.
These bison carry blood that hasn't roamed free since 1902. Your HOA complaint just set back a national recovery program.
Deborah's lips parted, but no words came. She looked at the dead animals like she was seeing them for the first time.
She's finally understanding. That herd wasn't mine to lose. It belonged to the country.
Collins unrolled the agreement further, showing the line that read Yellowstone Genetic Restoration Project.
Every ear tag you see corresponds to a DNA sample stored at the Smithsonian. This isn't a property crime. It's biological vandalism.
Deborah staggered back a step, her pink vest suddenly looking obscenely bright against the golden grass. Joseph folded his arms. The silence was worse than any shouting. A second sedan arrived, this one with Smithsonian Institution plates. Dr. Elena Ruiz stepped out already wearing latex gloves.
I need to see the ear tags, now.
She knelt among the bodies, checking each tag against a tablet. The more she checked, the slower her movements became.
This herd was carrying the Pelican Valley line, one of 6 known pure bloodlines from 1902.
She turned the tablet toward Deborah. A family tree bloomed on the screen, one branch highlighted in red.
That branch is gone now. Forever.
Deborah's hand went to her chest. Her mouth opened, but no argument came.
A century of survival, and it ended in 10 seconds of stupidity.
Dr. Ruiz closed the tablet and looked at the dead lead cow. The silence returned, heavier than before. Pelican Valley, 1902. 5 bloodlines remained. One was now a gap in the National Registry. Dr. Ruiz pulled a thick leather ledger from her bag. The spine cracked with age. The cover read National Bison Herd Registry.
Every bison in the restoration program is recorded here. When a bloodline is lost, we document the cause and the party responsible.
She opened to a page already half filled with cursive entries. The last line had been written in 1942.
You can't put my name in that thing. I didn't pull the trigger.
Your text message will be evidence. Your filming, your campaign. The registry doesn't distinguish between the shooter and the instigator.
Joseph watched from a few steps back. Arms crossed, his face unreadable.
My name in that book forever. Like a public criminal record that never goes away.
This ledger is consulted by wildlife biologists around the world. Your name will be the answer to a question for the next 100 years.
Say something. You've been standing there like a judge. Do you want my life destroyed?
Joseph didn't answer. He just looked at the ledger in Dr. Ruiz's hands, then back at the dead Bison. Marshal Davis walked back toward Deborah, a thick envelope in his hand. His pace made it clear this was not a courtesy call.
Mrs. Vance, the National Park Service Office of Inspector General has filed a civil restoration claim against you.
He pulled out a dense document, the header already bolded. United States v. Deborah Vance, Civil Restoration Claim for the genetic program recreation and loss of a protected bloodline. $4,800,000.
Effective immediately. All personal assets, bank accounts, real estate, vehicles, are frozen pending this claim.
Deborah's knees buckled. The phone slipped from her grip and cracked against the dirt.
4.8 million. I don't have that. No one has that.
You'll have opportunity to contest, but until then, your financial life is not your own.
Joseph stood rooted, watching the woman who'd tried to erase his herd now being erased herself, piece by legal piece. Deborah opened her mouth, but no scream came. Just a ragged breath, like something vital had been ripped out. The next morning, a federal moving van idled outside Deborah Vance's two-story colonial. Agents in windbreakers moved through her home, tagging furniture with bright red property seizure stickers. A flat-screen television, a grandfather clock, and a jewelry box were carried out without ceremony. In the driveway, the white Range Rover she'd parked so proudly was hitched to a tow truck. Deborah stood in the yard, clutching her purse, her mouth opening and closing without sound.
They're taking everything, even my mother's clock.
A neighbor across the street raised a phone, filming through his window with a grim satisfaction. One agent lifted her hot pink puffer vest from the entryway hook and dropped it into a clear evidence bag. When the last box was sealed, Deborah stumbled to the curb and sat down, her legs no longer supporting her. Behind her, the van doors slammed shut. The inventory was complete. Ranger Collins found Joseph on the ridge, looking over the remaining herd. The Park Service wanted closure, but the law offered more.
You could file a separate civil suit. Personal damages. It would add another $1 million to her debt.
That won't bring back the bloodline. The federal case is enough.
He turned his horse and rode to the barn without another word. Inside, a young bison calf, one of the survivors, stood in the straw, its flank still trembling. Joseph knelt and laid his hand on the animal's warm neck. He thought of his grandfather's words.
Don't let the bastards take what's yours. The land is still here. The herd will rebuild.
He stayed for a long time, the calf eventually pressing its nose into his palm. When he finally stood, his face was set. He would not sue. He would not sue. He would not let anger consume what remained. The next call he made was to the NPS Restoration Coordinator, asking about the next phase of the breeding program. Dr. Ruiz returned to Joseph's property. A week later, the leather ledger tucked under her arm.
I am here to finalize the entry. The Smithsonian requires an affidavit from the program host.
Joseph watched her uncap the pen. The nib hovered above the line where Deborah Vance's name would live forever.
Deborah Vance, September 23rd. Destroyed Pelican Valley bloodline, 1902 lineage.
She still thinks she can pull out of this, that it's all a misunderstanding.
She'll learn. This ledger doesn't have a delete key. When the ink dries, history is set.
She slid a typed affidavit across the desk. Joseph read the statement of loss and signed without hesitation. His signature appeared beside the notary stamp, sealing his testimony for the federal record.
This will be in the Smithsonian forever. Researchers, students, and park officials will see this page.
She blotted the ink carefully, then closed the heavy ledger cover. The sound echoed like a vault door shutting. The federal courtroom was silent, except for the judge's voice. Brad Vance stood first, his hands shaking at his sides. The judge sentenced Brad to 5 years in federal prison for the destruction of protected wildlife.
She said it was just cows. 5 years for believing my sister.
Then the judge turned to Deborah. Probation, $500,000 restitution, and the civil claim stood. Every asset forfeited.
I have nothing left. What more can you take from me?
The gavel struck once. The judge did not look up. Bailiffs escorted her out. She passed within arm's reach of Joseph, her eyes wild.
She's empty now. A ghost wearing blame.
He never said a word, not one word, and I still lost everything.
Joseph stood slowly, his hat in his hands. The herd had lost a branch, but the roots still held. The Smithsonian released the updated registry to the press. A camera zoomed in on Deborah Vance's name, permanently inked among the destroyed bloodlines. The headline read, HOA, Woman Destroys Century-Old Bison Bloodline. Permanent Smithsonian record. In a cheap motel room, Deborah sat on the edge of a sagging bed, staring at the television.
They put my face on national news. 100 years from now, people will still read my name and curse it.
The story spread. Wildlife biology forums, conservation podcasts, and university lectures all cited the case. The Smithsonian Ledger became the most requested public document of the year.
I was HOA Chair of the Year. Now I am a museum exhibit of stupidity.
Somewhere in a university library, a graduate student photocopied the page for her dissertation on genetic conservation failure.
Not even a footnote. I am the whole chapter.
The destroyed bloodline ledger, once a quiet archive, now bore a name that would echo through every biology classroom for generations. Joseph met Ranger Collins in the same field office where the first agreement had been signed. The sunlight looked different now.
Our board approved the new 10-year restoration plan. You'll host 80 bison, again with enhanced protection measures.
I'll build taller fences and put up cameras. No one touches this herd again.
The new document lay on the desk, its ink barely dry, bearing both signatures and the official bison restoration seal.
We'll have rangers on patrol, and the marshal's office is now aware. You won't carry this alone.
This land has held bison since my grandfather's time. It'll hold them another century if I have anything to say about it.
They shook hands over the desk, and the corner of Joseph's mouth lifted, a rare, quiet smile. The agreement was filed with the regional director that afternoon, a binding promise that the restoration would continue. Outside, the remaining bison grazed near the new monitoring post, unaware of the battles fought for their existence.
One bloodline is gone, but the other 5 are still here. That's enough to start again.
In a sparse apartment 2 towns away, Deborah Vance packed what remained of her life.
3 shirts, a pair of jeans, and a toothbrush. That's all the great HOA champion has left.
She folded her hot pink puffer vest with stiff fingers and left it on the bare mattress. The symbol of her fight, now just evidence. A small U-Haul trailer was hitched to a dented sedan that had replaced the Range Rover. She carried a single box down the steps, and across the street, a neighbor's curtain twitched.
They're all watching, waiting to video my walk of shame.
A former friend from the HOA stood on her porch, arms crossed, and turned away as Deborah passed.
I did what I thought was right. I didn't know.
She slid behind the wheel, took one last look at the town, and drove into the gray afternoon. The sedan and trailer shrank to a speck on the highway, the first mile of a long disappearance. 1 year later, the prairie thawed. Wildflowers bled yellow and purple across the hills among the remaining herd. A heavy cow lay apart in the tall grass, her breath steaming. Joseph found her at dawn, the sky low and pink. He stood back and watched the miracle unfold. A wet, struggling calf pushed into the world and wobbled upright on stick-thin legs. The old cow lowed and nudged her calf toward the herd, its coat still damp.
One bloodline is gone, but the others are here. They're still fighting.
He leaned on the fence, the wood warm under his forearms, and let the stillness settle in his chest. The calf tottered toward him, curious, then scrambled back to its mother.
Grandpa would smile. We kept the land.
The sun rose full over the prairie, and Joseph Hayes finally let the weight lift. The herd would survive. In a quiet university library, a young biologist pulled an ancient leather volume from the restricted shelf. She opened the ledger to a page marked by a faded red tab. The entry was written in careful, permanent ink.
Deborah Vance. Pelican Valley bloodline, destroyed. I wrote my thesis on this case.
She typed the date into a database, and the family tree bloomed on her screen, a missing branch marked by that single name. 100 years from now, another student would pull the same ledger. The name would still be there. Deborah Vance had vanished into obscurity, but the ledger refused to let her be forgotten. The researcher closed the book and stared at the ceiling, as if the weight of the story had settled in the room.
She wasn't a scientist or a hunter, just a neighbor who couldn't let go, and now she's history.
The page remained open for a long moment. Then the researcher closed it gently, as if tucking away a lesson. Some shames are time-bound, others are bound in leather, housed in the Smithsonian, and read by generations yet unborn. Joseph sat on the porch, a tin mug of coffee, cooling against his palm as twilight seeped across the prairie. Beyond the rail, the bison herd moved like a dark river through the grass, their shapes swallowed by distance.
Grandpa would say the land is enough. It is.
He had done what his grandfather asked, kept the land and the herd. The calves that spring had been strong, the fences held. The program was alive. Some losses echo forever, but some men still keep watch. Joseph drained the last of his coffee and stood, stretching his back against the doorframe. The first stars pushed through the violet sky, and the bison settled into the dark. He nodded once toward the ridge where his grandfather was buried, then stepped inside. The land held, and so did he. The Smithsonian's National Herd Registry sat in its archive, unchanged and unmoved. One entry, written in the careful hand of Dr. Ruiz, held a name and a date: Deborah Vance, destroyed bloodline, Pelican Valley, 1902, inked into permanence, a public record. Consulted by every wildlife biologist for the next 100 years. Some names are carved in stone. This one is inked in history for the next century. Every student who opens this book will pause at this page. They will read her name. They will know what she did forever. The ledger closed, but the name remained. Deborah Vance, saved in the archive of shame.